This is just a little video to give you a bit of background about why or what we're doing with the steps of long division. Sometimes when you understand why you're doing it or how it works, it can be easier for your brain to remember. And I know long division is something that for some reason makes kids really kind of nervous. If we took let's do 585 divided by 2. So when you do long division like this, your dividend goes inside the little like house or whatever you want to call it. So if we wrote it using the little bar and the dots, it would look like 585 divided by 2 or 585 divided by 2 with the fraction bar. So make sure you put the right thing inside the house if you're writing the problem. So basically what this is saying is I can take the 500 of 585 and divide by 2. I can take the 80 of 585 and divide by 2. And I can take the 5 ones. So if I break this number 585 down, so if I took, I know that 500 divided by 2 is 250. I know I don't have to do the long division for this one. And that's part of why I'm showing you when you break it down like this, it might be a little bit simpler. So 80 split in half would be 40. And then 5 split in 2 would be 2.5. Okay, so essentially that's what I'm doing when I do long division, when it goes down and you bring down the next one and subtract. I'm looking at how many times does 2 go into 500? How many times does 2 go into 80? How many times does 2 go into 5? So sometimes it goes in, but there's a little bit of leftover. And so that's why we have the remainder and we bring the next number down. So now I'm going to do it the long way to sort of show you what's happening there. So I have 2 as my divisor, 585 as my dividend. So how many times does 2 go into 5? And really remember that 5 is 500. Okay, so 2 goes into 5 twice. So if I take 2 times 2 for the 2 that went in, that would give me 4. And I would subtract to figure out what's left. I have 1 left. So I bring down the 8, and now I'm asking how many times does 2 go into 18? 2 goes into 18 9 times. 9 times 2 is 18. There's nothing left over. So then I have 0 left, but I still have 5 in my overall dividend. So I bring the 5 down. How many times does 2 go into 5? Twice. 2 times 2 is 4. I would subtract to figure out what's left. I have 1 left. So in the olden days of elementary school, you probably would have put an R1 because there's nothing left to bring down. Now what we'll talk about in class is that you add a decimal point and a 0. This does not change the value of the dividend. You would also add a decimal point to your quotient because now the numbers that I have after this are not whole numbers but parts of numbers. So I bring a 0 down. The decimal point does not come down to this part. So how many times does 2 go into 10? 5. So 5 times 2 is 10. Nothing left. When there is nothing left to bring down and no leftover, you are done. So 585, sorry, 585 divided by 2 is 292.5. So if I put this together, with this, I get 250 plus 40 plus 2.5. So 250 plus 40 would be 290. 292.5. So this is kind of why it works. So we're asking how many times does 2 go into 500? It went in twice, and then there was 100 left over. So for that 100, I bring down 80 more. So now this is essentially like 180. But we aren't putting all the place values in, okay? But that is what is happening and why it works. So the steps that you're going to kind of need to remember are I divide. How many times did 2 go into 5? 2. Then I multiply. 2 times 2 is 4. Then I subtract to figure out what's left. And then I bring down. You could just mark it with a B if you wanted. And then I repeat. Okay, so remember I said you repeat until there's nothing left to bring down and there is no leftover. Another reason we would stop, and we'll talk about this in class, but there's nothing left to bring down, there's nothing left over, or there continues to be zeros you have to add, but you see a pattern, like it's always the same amount left over. So once you see a pattern, then you could also stop.